welcome. This is Mendoza, and now you are in the rabbit hole. Welcome to this podcast, to this episode. In this episode, we're going to be expressing, feeling, and really diving into the rabbit hole, going into that rabbit hole of a nonsense, of kind of little sense, into codependency and toxic relationships. In this podcast, I have a guest, a very important, a very amazing person that has experienced a lot of things with codependency and toxic relationships, and now she is here to express and to tell us her stories and her point of view, her spirit points, in order to just either heal, express, talk, have fun, and feel, as well as give you a little bit of, hey, you're not alone, and this is something that it may be connecting with you. So let's welcome our guest for today, Devynne Biggs. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good.
Hello, rabbit hole listeners.
Oh, yeah. How do you feel today?
Oh, this is the first time I've done something like this, so I mean, it's definitely a
Experience. It's adding up to your experience points.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to have you. Thank you so much for bringing such a good content into this podcast. So I'm gonna start first by asking you a quick question here, and just tell me your answer. Let's start with, what is the definition of codependency?
Well, the definition of codependency is someone who has, when you enable another person, whether it's family member or a partner or someone that you have a relationship with, it could be a friend, that has an addiction, they have poor mental health, possibly immature, they're irresponsible, and then you have excessive reliance on that other people for like approval and decision making. So you have a relationship with someone basically that you are dependent upon to have some sort of natural relationship with that person. Like,
so how can you put that into like one sentence, like for you, your own kind of sentence? Like, what is codependency to you in your experience?
Codependency to me is finding some sort of like value or worth in someone that has maybe an addictive personality or an addiction problem, and then you either think that you can make that person better by being dependent, having them dependent upon you.
For you.
Okay, so codependency for me is basically being dependent on someone in your. Okay, never mind. Codependency for me is something that where you are having a relationship with someone and you're dependent upon that person to make yourself feel better.
Okay, I like that. So basically, codependency is using someone else to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
yes.
Cool. And now let's move into the second question. And after this question, she's gonna give us a little bit of her background, her story, and her experience points with her codependency and toxic relationships, lifestyles, and experiences. So the second question is, how does codependency leads into toxic relationships? What is the connection between these two?
Well, you develop codependency like traits or habits based on like your experiences with maybe someone in your growing up, when you're being raised in childhood. So basically, I think that leads to relationships, toxic relationships, because you don't know how to have either deal breakers or red flags that take you away from the relationship because you grew up thinking that this is normal. That's okay for these people to have these types of behaviors, that they may change or you can fix them, like you try to fix someone in your life that had issues or had addiction issues or problems.
Very good, yeah. All right, so basically people, like when you have grown up into whatever situation that we're going to be expressing some examples later on, if you had a bad example or you grew up with people that were codependency or in toxic relationships,
or have addictions.
So addiction has a lot to do. It's like you kind of like don't have any boundaries. You don't know because nobody taught you. So you go ahead and become a codependent person. You're looking for someone, and sometimes or most of the times you go into these relationships that have addictions because you think you want to help them, because that connects you with, because I saw my mom and I couldn't help her. Now you feel in a subconscious level, probably you feel like I can help this partner, or I can help this friend.
Yes. and or you have addiction issues too, and then you are in that relationship because you both have addictions. You feel comfortable, you feel safe. It's like it's a safe spot for you to be in this relationship and stay in this relationship because you guys are enabling each other. That's from one of my.
I love it. All right, so now that we have a little bit of an idea, a little more, more of a deeper idea of these two different like words. Go ahead, Devynne, and tell us who you are, and I mean, where did everything started, and why you are bringing us into this podcast about your experience with these two topics.
Yes. I'm very excited. Yeah, no. I'm very excited to share my story because it's something I'm very passionate about. My name is Devynne. Yes, like we've said, and my dad is bipolar, and my mom was an alcoholic or an addict, and I was at one point in my life raised by either one of them at different times.
Never together.
Not really together.
Imagine together.
Yeah, no, I know. I can't. They've only been in the same room like twice my whole life. It's been.
So that has a lot to do with everything for you.
Yes. So both of my parents, with their own issues, have always had very toxic relationships. They had partners that were either as well addicts or alcoholics, and that they were codependent on them. And all I know is I just always saw how the relationships were toxic, and my parents didn't leave. They couldn't leave. They wouldn't leave. They thought that people would change. They thought they were in love with them, and that's what created, like, I know for a fact, and that actually happened in also a lot of the past. My family's, both my grandmothers had toxic relationships.
So it comes from
yes, the generations of it. Well, it's generational
your
trauma.
Mom learned it from your mom,
her mom. My dad learned it from his mom. My dad's adopted father had issues as well with addictions. So my father didn't know that it's not okay to be with someone who has an addiction issue, or didn't know how to put up a red flag or a deal breaker or a boundary and leave that person, because they always saw people stay in the relationship that they thought was healthy, but it's not.
Or they didn't even think about healthy or not. I mean, it was just like, I need you.
Yes.
They really and that's something that in your experience too, which you can tell us later. Like, when you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know.
So it's like, yeah. So tell us. So okay, now that's the background. So what do you want to tell us after that? I mean, how did that lead you to where you are now, and where were you before?
Well, I have a so the first seriously toxic relationship that I was in, with my mother, for one, but then after that, the one I had a child with a man that I thought for some reason he provided me some sort of comfort, right? Like, we were both in our addictions at the time. We were both young in our addictions.
How old were you?
I was 23 when we met. So I was 23 when we met. We had a very toxic relationship where it was very much so I was trying to please him. I was doing everything I could to make the relationship work. Within a month of us dating, this man had gotten a DUI, and then gotten a second DUI within like 3 months of us dating.
Maybe he just likes drinking.
No, well, don't we all? Excuse me, just don't.
But don't get it. Don't.
I mean, but I was also, I was lost. I was scared. I was lost. I felt alone. He provided some sort of comfort, some sort of structure, some sort of security, where it's like, okay, I can be this person with this man, and he's not gonna judge me or make me feel bad about my choices. And I thought that everybody around me, for some reason, family and otherwise, was not understanding where I was at that point in life. But I was afraid, I was scared, I was alone, I was 23, I didn't know where my life was going.
And you felt guilty.
And I felt guilty
all let's talk about
the time.
So, and it's very, very, I think it could be very relatable and common, because, I mean, I know you, right? But you like to say sorry a lot, and I know that. So guilt can be something that is connected to all of this. So, because the reason why maybe we go into this codependency relationship and toxic is that we don't want to leave, because there is that guilt. That guilt, that you feel guilt
Yeah,
So,
I actually have always had this. I have a saying that I've said since for a long time. I feel like I was born guilty. I feel like I was like born, and I don't know if it, again, it goes back to your toxic relationships, right, or your family. Like my mom and my dad trying to people please, everything was my fault all the time. I always felt some sort of like need to take their issues on and make it my problem. Oh, this is my fault. I'm the guilty one. And then I used
why
to say,
you think that it was for you? What have you understand that of yourself yet or no?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because of their dysfunction that I felt some sort of need to, people please and take on all the guilt and everything that was going on. And that is it. That's actually a standard symptom of people who have been raised by alcoholics, is that guiltiness, that like codependency, the issues with boundaries and deal breakers and having good relationships with people and settling for certain things when you were raised in an environment with alcoholics. So yeah.
All right, so for everybody that's listening here, just kind of like a brief kind of, hey, we hear you, we feel you, we know what you're going through, or we know what you are going through, or we know what you have been going through. I mean, I think we both can relate in the part of like we were both kind of like, raised, or we grew up with, at least in my perspective, I mean, in my view, like alcoholics,
People with addictions
in general.
Yes.
So where do you want to go next?
Well, I've done a lot of work. A lot of the work that I've actually done is part of because I am friends and close to Katy Mendoza Blanca.
Blanca.
I
like a Blanca.
But I'm 33 at this point. I left my son's father at the age of 29, and I was still in this weird I was still in this weird environment and a weird person, and I was definitely trying to find myself, trying to figure it out. It was freaking scary as heck. If you are in a toxic relationship and you're afraid to leave, it's scary. It is so scary, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's not. Do you remember the day that you came home with me when all the furniture was gone and you moved in and I was like a mess? I was hysterical. I was crying. I mean, I felt bad for him, and he was like, oh, I was like, but I didn't even feel bad for myself. I just felt bad for him, for the situation, and I was like, but I knew it was the best
my fault.
thing. Yeah, it was my fault.
Why am I leaving him?
Yeah. How come I couldn't stick it out? But it's just like, there's certain things that he would say in our relationship, like, it's really not that bad. And it's like, no, it really was that bad. And if you have to say that, oh, it's not that bad, it's really that bad. Like, I went to domestic violence support groups. Actually, some of my family was like, hey, you need help. This isn't normal. Like,
and you
what's
lied
going on?
about,
And I didn't even think. I just thought it was like, okay, no, it's not that bad. It's okay. It's not, but then I was like, wait, it really is that bad. This is really horrible.
When
this
did you
isn't
see
normal.
That?
When we separated, and he was very like
until the end. So then, like, but in the middle of it, like, what did you go through? So wait, I think we're because I kind of like know your story, but I want to make sure that the listeners are understanding the sequencing.
Yes.
So first, you grew up with this dysfunctional family, right? Mother and father. The father was
in a relationship,
bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mom was
an alcoholic.
They did not get along. So let's just start with that here together. Then you live with one of them before, like your dad, your mom, and then I mean we go into, of course, if someone is bipolar and someone is an alcoholic, imagine the things that she saw and experienced. And then you have like what? How many siblings that you have to take care of?
I have an older sister who was with me, like she's my full sister, and then I have a younger sister my dad had after he lost custody of us. She's 10 years younger than me, wasn't raised by either one of my parents, and is perfectly normal.
Whoa! How that connection?
Not even, you met Emily.
I know. Emily, hi.
I mean, Emily. She's normal. It's okay. But
she's like, I'm not that normal that you think.
She's pretty normal. She's pretty awesome.
You're just learning how to like hide it. Just kidding.
But it's you. So my mom kind of abandoned us when I was like 7, right? So my mom lost custody. My mom, and I have a great relationship with my mom now.
Things change.
And I love my mother.
And we're using all this as a healing. I mean, this is like was your journey of healing with your mother. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
forgiveness. But that's another thing. Let's just say,
yeah.
So you have these siblings.
I have an older sibling that is my half sister from my mom, right? So my dad married my mom with my older sister.
But okay, so let's go back into, did you have to take care of any siblings at all?
No, I was the youngest at this time.
So you were the youngest.
Yeah.
So then you grew up, you actually lived in Hawaii for a little bit, right?
Moved to Hawaii when I was 10.
So then, and then you actually went to college thanks to your grandma.
Thanks to my grandma, she gave us some financial support. Yes,
how was your grandma? Was she into these codependency?
Well, my grandma enabled my father his whole life.
But she was good. Like
she was amazing.
So she was the one who she didn't have any addictions, but she was codependency because she wanted to help the one.
So my dad's father was an alcoholic. Okay, my father didn't even know that he was adopted until he was like 10 years old, and he found a piece of mail that came to his home, and he was like, to the children of his actual father's name, right? And they're like, who is this? They thought that their adopted father was their actual father. So my father had that traumatic experience, and his adopted father was an addict. He had issues. He was abusive to my father and traumatized my father, and was in an abusive relationship, and that. So it's like, okay, my father experienced that. My grandmother having an alcoholic for a father. Their father abandons them. Then she marries another man who also has addiction problems.
But she didn't have any addiction.
No, my grandma did not have any addiction. There's Diet Coke and cigarettes. That's what she liked. But I mean, not like, but she wasn't a drinker. She didn't have any,
sugar and like, what I mean? There's still an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're talking about, dependency of like some sort of substance.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so then, you grew up, you went to college, which, that helped you, I'm sure, in a way.
Oh, the best times of my life was when I was living, so I lived with my aunt and uncle, and they were the only normal, consistent
and that was
environment. Oh, and I was thriving. I thrived so well. I was in this beautiful home with this beautiful normal family, having dinners every night. There's no
did you feel comfortable, or you feel like
I felt horrible. I felt horrible.
You were like, what?
I felt guilty.
So all of this also takes you to like crave this like dysfunctional stuff. Like when everything is normal, you're like, I need to find some sort of like drama or something, right?
Well, yes, we're addicted to the dysfunction at some points, and it's hard for us to actually admit it, but we are addicted to the dysfunction because it's the only thing we've known, or it's the only type of normalcy. It's like that up and down, the high and lows. It's actually called trauma bonding. So you have a traumatic experience. Trauma bonding. So you have a traumatic experience, and then the person that you're having, they come and they love on you, or maybe you have makeup sex, or you do this and that and the other.
That is trauma bonding.
It's trauma bonding. So
it's like trauma.
Yes. And it's kind of like, sometimes I feel like we're teaching our children that this is okay. Because it's like your child does something wrong and you're like, oh my gosh, don't do that. And then you're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to.
So you're
like, you're showing them that that's kind of a normal, and that's not okay. So you need to be not as reactive when it comes
that's
to.
That you have learned as a mother.
I've definitely learned that. I'm definitely trying not to.
So then, something kind of came good for you while 20s, in your 20s?
Actually 30, no, 29. No, okay, well, during that time I was living with my aunt and uncle, it was the best time of my life.
You met your ex
after I graduated college, and I felt lost and scared, and I didn't know what I was doing.
So and how did you feel lost because you were having this amazing family kind of like help, right?
Well, the guy that broke my heart.
Or somebody else.
Oh, so I was dating this person in college. That's where it started.
I don't know that one.
So I was dating.
We're going through
this amazing person in college.
I know. I'm still in love with you. Where are you?
No, I do. I think about him all the time. Sorry. Shout out. No, I'm just but I actually hit him up in quarantine.
Was he one of the? Was he considered a codependency too? Like
no, we had the most normal, beautiful. We never fought. We never argued. We went to college together. We had salsa dancing class. There was no issues or there was nothing. The only thing is for 6 months we dated. I had him on a pedestal. So I looked at him as if, you're so much better than me in some ways. And then he didn't want to be my boyfriend.
So you got rejected for the first time.
I got super rejected. Oh. My heart was broken. And then, very shortly after, I met my son's father. So
and then by that time, you're like heartbroken because, like this. Now you're like, oh, maybe I don't deserve something good.
Yeah. Maybe,
and then because, now you had a stable family, and then you meet this stable guy. He doesn't want you. then you're like, I have a problem, and then you connect the problem to like.
And then I started. I was.
And then you met this guy.
I met him.
And then what happened? So then this is when the instability and the toxicity and codependency really came on. Tell us about that.
He was someone in a group of friends that I had made after college, and I was working. As a grassroots organizer, so I was fundraising. I was one of those cool people with clipboards in front of the grocery store, like, hey, come talk to me about saving children's lives.
Kidding? No, I can't believe I just said that.
Saving the planet. That was me. Sorry, I apologize. But I was.
Stop apologizing.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Okay. So I met him through a group of friends, and he said to me, I have had the biggest crush on you for the longest time. And I was like, really? Why? I don't even talk to you or like you. And then something happened where.
And you're like, wow, somebody likes me.
Exactly. And I was feeling so low, so lost, so... and then we just started hanging out, and we had a good time. We would go out with our friends. We had this little group of people. He cheated on me within a month and a half of us dating. The first, and then I tried to get over it, forget about it.
And that was the first like red sign.
Red flag.
What you told those girls? What you told those girls?
Oh God, listen to that flag, man. Like the flag is on fire. Run. Stop, drop, and roll. Get on the ground, stop, drop, and roll, and get the hell out. Get the hell out.
But it's not easy. Or if you would have, if somebody would have told you, you think you would have listened?
No, I was an idiot.
So I don't think they're gonna listen.
You're never ready. When a woman's ready to leave a relationship, that's when she's ready to leave a relationship. You cannot. You know that, girl.
I think we've
all been through it.
All right, so I really love how you express and how you gave us that. Follow the red signs that you are not going to follow, but it's just, hopefully someone does listens to this.
Red flags and deal breakers.
All right, so now that we're understanding a little bit of your background, I think that we went over your background. Let's talk about your toxic relationship, and how was that, and how were you able to get out of it?
Well, enough was enough. I was about to be 30. I was 29, and it was years of gaslighting. And
what is gaslighting?
Gaslighting is basically crazy making, right? Like making it seem like you are the person that is crazy. You're the crazy and it's called crazy making. Gaslighting. So it's like basically he would say, it's really not that bad. Like this is not that bad. I don't treat you that bad. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't treat me that bad. Because like maybe once a week we'd actually get along. I'm like, oh, this week we're okay. But no, and then we even tried to go to therapy. And when we went to therapy, he made the therapist basically think that I was the one that was making this all up. It wasn't me. There wasn't this bad situation going on at home. There wasn't an issue with alcohol where he would pass out on our child and I would have to find care for our son when I was working full time. There wasn't an issue with him drinking till he passed out or till he blacked out. It wasn't, and it was like I was the one that was making this up. It's like there's not an issue here, but there was an issue. It didn't matter how many times I said, hey, there's a problem. We have an issue. There's a problem. Let's try and fix it. Let's either try move forward. Let's fix this relationship. And there was no issue. I was the one that was making it up. It's not as bad. It's not that bad. It wasn't that bad.
And and you believed it.
I mean, up and down. I'd be like, oh, this isn't normal. This isn't a good relationship. This isn't the life I want to live. I'm better than this. I know my worth and value. And I realized, actually, when I started working at the gym, I was like, wow, I am a really good person, and I don't deserve to live in this environment anymore. I was just finally like done. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be 30 years old. I have, all this going on for me, but not as much as I really wanted to be going on with me. But I knew that the relationship was toxic. I would literally just walk on eggshells the whole time living in that environment. It's nothing I did was good enough. It was just mentally breaking me down. I didn't know my self-worth, my value. I was depressed. I couldn't even clean the house. I had no, what is it called?
Desire.
Like worth. No worth. Like everything I did was wrong,
And that's something that stay with you for.
Yeah. And then I went from that very toxic relationship, and then I have a child with him, and we still do not have a good relationship, which is sad because I wish we did, of course, but You know, when you decide to stay in a relationship with someone and then have children with that person, you have to stay connected to that person. So again, girls, leave, run, hit the road, Jack. Don't come back. No more.
But where do they go?
Anywhere. Go anywhere. Be roommates with Mendoza. She changed my life. You know, like, you know, just it's scary to think about it, but once you get out, you realize I can do this. I can make this work. I have the strength to make this work. It's scary, but you'll do it. I promise you. It's and then I went from him to another very toxic relationship where I was chasing someone who actually kind of disgustingly chose me because he could like smell, and it sounds weird to say this, but he could like smell the insecurities on me, like that I was like a target, you know, that I was this person willing to just appease him and just like, you know, and it was really strange.
Because you were weak, and
I was weak,
and I mean, you showed it to it.
And I like was like all like I went from this relationship to that relationship right away, very much so. I mean, our relationship was gone from a while before I chose to be in another relationship. When I decided to leave was because, you know, I realized like I had a better life out there for myself. But then I went to this other relationship that I found things that were not what I had in my relationship. We didn't have certain things. Like, he never would help with, like, just, like, normal life, right? Like, cleaning or even, and laundry and this.
Or even give you a title.
Oh, yeah. Not even giving me a title. And this new person that came into my life provided me with a lot of different things that I was lacking in my relationship, but still the toxic, the verbal abuse, wasn't physical, but a lot of verbal abuse. The relationship with my son's father was a lot of like some verbal, mostly verbal, everything. And a little bit of physical. Yeah. Nothing, you know. And again, we never were able to get past those things because I just continued to think that I could change him or I could be better. I was even trying to say, like, if I can get better in this relationship, maybe he'll be better. And I couldn't be better. I could not be better in the relationship, even though I thought I could. If I just said, oh, I'll just work on myself. Maybe they'll change. Maybe if I changed, he'll change. Maybe it'll get better. Just never got better. And never moved forward. Then I went to the other toxic relationship. Again, like a lot of...
Did you see this when you jump into... Like, were you conscious and aware that you were jumping into another toxic relationship, or you did not see it again?
I think I did, but I didn't want to because there was so much other things that I had liked from the next relationship, where it was more of a partnership.
Because you were codependency.
Yes, and I didn't want to be. Yes, I didn't want to be alone. I was codependent.
But you were aware of what
I was aware, but it was like, it felt so good to have someone actually be nice to me. I mean, though there was a lot of verbal and mental abuse, it was different. It was a different kind of abuse, and it was different. But then that got too toxic, and then I realized I don't want to do this again. I don't want to repeat the same patterns. So now I don't date anybody. I'm just kidding. I'm not even in that.
But let's talk about how you got, what was the light that came to you? Like, in your second relationship, right? I mean, in the first one you said enough was enough and you just made it change.
The second relationship is the same thing. It was a shorter amount of time.
What was it? What is enough is enough?
When he started to control me, try to say I couldn't hang out with certain people. He said he was trying to control me. He would get mad if I ate certain things that were, like, if I was we were trying to be healthy, we're trying to work out together, this, that, the other. If I ate a piece of pizza, he got mad at me, and he would, like, not talk to me and tell me, or not let me hang out with certain people because that person wasn't a good influence. And I was like, wait a second, you're projecting onto these people the exact same things that you're doing. You are not, by any means, not perfect, but you're trying to say now I can't hang out with people because you see like, that's not okay. It's not okay for someone to say that you can't hang out with certain people. If you want to not hang out with someone because of your own choices, that's on you. But when someone tries to tell you you can't be friends with other people, that is not okay. That's controlling, and that is not a healthy relationship. You should never, ever, ever let anybody tell you who you can or cannot hang out with. That's not okay. If someone needs to trust you, they can, like, that's a good relationship. They can trust you. You make the right decisions in the relationship. But that was like, you know what projecting is?
Yeah.
When you project onto other people, yes.
Well, but let's tell our listeners.
So projecting is basically what would happen is that they would think that he would think, oh, you're cheating on me. You're talking to other people. And then I find a text message from another girl, and I'm like, wait a second. Really? I have nothing on me, and now you have...
And you will feel guilty.
And I would feel guilty. And I would... then I would like feel bad, and I would, want to just please him. Be like, no, my God, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Like, just stay with me. I'm so sorry. It's not I'm so sorry.
Even though you saw the other girl, like so, okay, so all of these takes us to, that was your second relationship, and your last one, you will say?
I haven't really been in a relationship since, yeah.
And how is that? Ago. I mean, before we move into that, I mean, how did you get out of it? How were you able to stay and not jump into another toxic relationship? Did you have the option? Did you see it and
yes.
you were able to...
And actually stop myself from continuing. Yeah. So actually, perfect example. So I broke up with that person. We hadn't talked for like almost 2 years. I had dated on and off. There were certain people, just, ghosting. I mean, if you know about ghosting, that stuff is freaking horrible.
Wait, tell us about ghosting.
Oh my God. Like, they leave you on red, or they just don't talk to you, or don't call you back, or just like, make plans with you, but then don't, like, that stuff is insane.
So what is that?
Ghosting is like the new, like, you remember when you just actually go on a date and they wouldn't show up? It's called you were stood up. Ghosting is like the new stand up, but it's like you meet these people, you make plans with them.
But why do they do that? You think
I don't know.
That's connected to like some other, that's like another topic.
That's another topic. We'll talk about ghosting another day. But I realized, so after I had broken up with the second toxic relationship, that was the most traumatizing, one of the most traumatizing relationships. The second one. I was on one of the stupid apps, Hinge. We were on Hinge, and I met a guy, and we started talking, and I had expressed some sort of view that he didn't particularly...
But you hadn't seen him yet?
No, we had seen each other a couple times. And... he had a freak out where he like left, and he like basically just, and I said, look, if you are acting this way by me expressing my own ideas, don't talk to me anymore.
And you have never done that before.
And I've never done that before.
You stood out for yourself.
Or I would go backwards, and I would take it back. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't feel that way.
But you thought of it.
I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. I don't put up with this anymore. And it's been continuously getting stronger. My ability to say, wow, that's a red flag. That is a deal breaker. If I can express how I feel about something, and then you're going to take it to a point where you're going to take off on me, or just like, that's not okay. Goodbye. Exactly. Bye-bye. 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 So it's grown tremendously. My ability to now be like, okay, you know what? I'm okay with this, and I'm not going to put up with this behavior anymore. And if you want to have a reaction to my own personal opinions, then we are not going to be in a good relationship, because I've already done that. I've already lost myself multiple times.
I want to find myself.
I want to, yeah. And
and tell us about, because I know you've been through, you went to, no rehab, how do you call that?
Domestic violence support
group.
Group.
How did that help you? What do you think about that? Tell us, for people that maybe are thinking about it, or this girl, like, do you recommend it?
I do. I definitely recommend it. One time I went to the support group after I'd broken up with my son's father. I was in the support group a lot, because I just really didn't realize that I was in this really horrible environment, toxic relationship. And one of my family members was like, look, there's help out there. You can find help.
Like, what?
And there is support out there. And then I told them the situation about, so the guy I dated after, at one point he looked at me and he's like, 'cause I had a breakdown in front of him, and he's like, I shouldn't be making you feel this way. I was like,
who is this? The guy that
after
the first one,
after
the second one.
My son's father.
So he became
he actually was aware of it, but then he continued to behave in the outside behavior.
He didn't want to work on it.
I was at the support group, and then one of the girls was like, wow, maybe he's not that bad. And then I thought in my head, I was like, no, you're really messed up to think that this person's not that bad. Don't give anybody that advice.
For you to be able
to acknowledge, like, that there are issues where it's like, oh, he can say that, I shouldn't be treating you this way, but then continues to treat you that way. And then you think that he's going to change, and you think that you can be different, and that you guys will change together. And
that becomes toxic relationship. I mean, and that's how the toxic relationship is created, right?
Yes, because you keep thinking it's going to get better, or they're going to change, or someone's like, well, maybe they're not that bad. It's not, it's just not. You need to just understand at one point man, enough is enough. I am done. I'm done having these ups and downs, feeling this way, having someone treat you like you just don't have any value. Remember, okay, so Kati got me a tattoo. I was cooking eggs in the kitchen. It's right. No, I don't want to show it. It's right here. But I speak fluent Spanish, and something I'm very proud of.
We used to live together.
We lived together. I was cooking eggs in the kitchen. I was crying, and she's like, "How are you?" And I was like, I have worth. I'm so valuable. Like, and I never understood my worth because the person had, like, the second person that I had been with made me feel like I was disposable. Like I was literally like a rolled up, like you just like piece of newspaper trash that they just tossed away, that I had no value, no worth, that I gave them nothing. And I just realized, man, and I was speaking to someone that I only spoke Spanish, and I was like, pero yo tengo valor. I was like, I am valuable, and I know that means a lot of different things. It can mean like I'm brave, right?
I have value.
Or I have value. And so I just was like, wow, I am valuable. I do bring value to people's lives. I am a good person. And first, I don't know why I never realized it before. Maybe because growing up in a bad environment, growing up in a codependent environment with addicts and mental disease and, all that. I'm 33, okay? I'm 33, and I learned this at the age of 30, right? 29 to 30 is when I kind of had that awakening. And then now I try to meditate every day. I try to do the affirmations. You try to work on yourself.
And not be hard on yourself.
Yes.
And because now you understand, there's like, you carry a big, yeah.
Well, and the thing is like a lot of my good friends are like, I can't wait for you to meet a person that sees you the way I see you. Like, wow, when someone sees you the way I see you, that's going to be the person for you. Oh, don't do that. But,
but then you think you are also codependent to the idea of finding someone?
Actually, right now, to be honest with you, I feel like just like I would love to find someone.
It gives you time for your kid.
But I really think that at this point, I need to. Okay, so at one point, someone said to me, well, do you think that person's a 10? Do you think that person thinks you're a 10? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, do you think that, are you proud to be with that person? Do you want to, show them off? And I was like, no, I don't. And I felt the other way. The same thing. Like, that person didn't want to be like, you're my 10. And I want to be the person that I want to be for the person that I'm going to attract, right? I want to be in a place where I'm secure, confident, I feel good about myself, I am in a good place financially, physically, emotionally, mentally, and then when I want to find the same person on my same level. So I think I'm not there.
So you think that, do you agree that we attract what we are, basically, in a way? Or at least like the vibration, if you want a 10, you gotta be
you have to be a 10. If you want to be with a 10, if you're like looking on your Instagram, your social media, or your Hinge or whatever, and you're like thinking, I want to be with this person, but you don't feel like you're good enough to be with that person,
then you
in some ways, yeah, but like I want to be able to be like super confident, right? Like I am gonna walk like
because you like confident people.
With the photoshops and all the filters nowadays, okay, guys? Like the filter I have I'm wearing today is I gave a fuck, okay? Just is that a bad word? Are we allowed to cuss on our podcasts?
You're in the rabbit hole.
Oh, okay, I'm in the rabbit hole.
No conversation is forbidden.
Oh, okay, it's not censored.
Not censored.
You don't. I remember when I started.
I block all the moms.
My mom. When you are on those Hinge apps and your dating apps or your dating websites and you're like, I don't want to meet this person because I don't think that my pictures like are what they're gonna see me as. Like I don't feel confident, right? So it's like, wait, why is that even a thing? Why is that a perceived thing? Why do you feel that your picture is better than who you are as a person? Because it's really
and that goes into all the other, that goes to like self-worth or being what do you call it, confidence,
but that's self-esteem.
But that's also connected to right, all this toxic, everything goes connected, everything becomes one.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just to whoever is listening to this Rabbit Hole podcast, you will eventually one day value yourself, realize your self-worth. If you're having a hard time at this time, there is help out there, and we can all be better and learn from our experiences. But if you choose not to listen to whatever your inner voice is saying to you,
that's always
choose not to do the work, right? Choose not to do the work. If you don't do the work, you are not going to achieve that. It's and when you're ready to leave, you will leave. I promise you this, you will leave, and it will be better. If this relationship is not worth it anymore.
It's just about like how long are you gonna stay and how much more you want to suffer, basically.
Exactly.
Because it's gonna,
how much more of your life do you want to waste on this
do you consider this wasting, or do you like for example, if I ask you, would you change the experiences that you've been through, or would you not?
Okay, so I have said this multiple times that, all right, if a fairy godmother, or let's just say the devil, actually, never mind, the devil came up to me and he
how
said,
did you go into the devil, into the fairy, like how?
Okay, sorry, I'm so sorry, not fairy godmother. Okay, the devil came to me and he said, Devynne, guess what? I will give you the Kardashian booty and the money and all of this, but you have to...
Can I just have the money? I don't want the booty.
Well, you have to take back all of the spiritual growth that you've made, all of the mental growth you've made, all of those things. I would never in my right mind, it is invaluable. There is no price on it. By growth, I have attained, and the people I've helped with all of the knowledge and the growth that I've done. I have affected people's in my life. There are many women in my life that are in relationships where I'm like, wow, I am here for you for a reason. I am here to tell you that you need to get, are you gonna cry? If you cry, okay, don't cry. Are you crying?
No, I think you want to cry. Are you projecting? Finish your beautiful sentence.
I wouldn't give it up for anything. I mean, yes, it would be very nice to have a very nice home and have a Kardashian booty, but I don't want to go back to that person. I don't want to be in that toxic relationship ever again. I don't ever want anybody to, I don't want my son to see that woman putting up with that kind of stuff anymore. I am doing this so that my son doesn't have to be down that rabbit hole of life, okay?
But he will always be in a different rabbit hole.
I just pray that he doesn't ever have to be in that.
And maybe yours, your story or whatever whatever it is, and I hope he is not too. And I think that's why expressing and fixing, or not fixing, but like learning and really being honest with him, will help. And I mean, I have no say on kids, but you're
you have two cats, so.
But I wanted to ask you one question, because we're gonna be ending here very soon, and I want to give you some time to express anything else that you want to express. But the question I want to ask you, so now the question is, what would you say that you are using now or before in those moments to cope with the toxic relationships and
so the things I use to cope now with anxiety or feeling lost or just whatever, I do meditations, right? There's meditations on YouTube for everything. Laws of attraction, self-love, manifesting your best relationship, weight loss. So I use meditation to cope. I used to go to the gym when the gyms were open, you guys, I swear. And that was actually...
They're not open?
No. That was actually one of the biggest things we used to do, was go to the gym. That was my favorite.
But what I really wanted to... actually finish.
Well, no, and the other things that I do to cope, I listen to books on tape. Audible has amazing self-help books. There's a couple books I actually want to recommend. Women Who Love Too Much is amazing.
And we'll leave it right down below for you guys to check it out.
And then I also listen to the one, Becoming the Narcissist's Nightmare. That's a really, really good one for like people who are going through it. But Women Who Love Too Much is honestly my mother, when she finally woke up from her life and realized.
So give us 3.
So Women Who Love Too Much, then Becoming the Narcissist's Nightmare, and also there's one I'm listening to right now called Atomic Habits, but it talks about like creating new habits based on your already automatic habits, like brushing your teeth. So maybe you brush your teeth and then the next thing you do is meditate or write down your affirmations. It's a sequence, and just learning
to retrain your brain,
to retrain yourself to be, and then to be honest with you, let the universe provide. Man, I have like literally adapted that from Kati, and I swear to God on my life, once I let the universe provide for me and just let everything be like, okay, the universe provides, but I have to do the work. You have to do the work to get the rewards. So I could say the universe provides, but when someone says, hey, do you want to do this for me, I'll pay you, I take that opportunity. I don't deny it. I don't, the universe provides, and the 4 agreements. Oh, the 4 agreements. That changed my life. Don't take anything personal. Never make assumptions. Always do your best and always stick to your word. I swear to God. I learned that as well from Kathy.
We'll leave that book down below too. It's a really good book.
That's one of the best books you could learn in your life.
That I gave it to her. She never read it.
I have it on Audible and paperback now. So it's really a good book. It's really a good way to live your life, because once you, and especially if you come from a background where you have had toxic relationships or alcoholics in your family, you know, learning to not take things personally. Let me tell you, that was something that I struggled with tremendously, because I thought that everything I did was a reflection of myself. And it's like, wait, that person could be having a bad day and it's not you. It's not you. It might be them. So,
everybody's going through their own stuff.
Yeah.
So
and I listen to motivational videos on YouTube. In the morning when I first wake up, especially if I feel like I'm gonna have a hard time, I just put on whatever motivational video. Actually, now my feed on YouTube is just motivational videos, and I just pick the first one because I feel like it's meant for me that day, and it really helps listening to those.
So you take care of your mind.
Yes. So much more.
Because it's so important. I mean, what we take on. And I thank you for sharing all of those. We're going to be leaving down below the books that she mentioned. And what I wanted to mention, and you know, before we end, and you can tell me how this connects with you or makes you feel, because this is just my what I see, I guess, in you. Because when I said, what is your coping mechanism, I would say, I mean, those are the amazing things that you use, right? But one of the things that I see in you is that you use humor.
Yes.
And I find that a lot, because, you know, I have a lot of friends, you know, like I have met that, like, are comedians and stuff like that. And it's like the comedians are the ones that have had, like, most of the pain, like, most of this, like, crazy pain, right?
Yeah.
And they just make it to be funny. So for you, do you think, like, all this pain, which is a beautiful thing, kind of, like, you get to make it funny?
1,000%. I'll be crying.
So that's something. Do you think that's
it's a huge coping mechanism. I'll be crying. I will literally be sobbing, and I will make a joke to like make lightheart. Oh, it's like, you know, it's just a very weird way to cope with things, but definitely it is the truth for me. 100%. I legitimately use humor as a way of coping. I will make a joke, or I'll start, like, you know, I'll be crying. I will literally be hysterically crying. And just try to make other people laugh. Just to make other people laugh.
And that makes you feel a little better.
That makes me feel better so much.
So you use humor as a coping mechanism of all the pain that you've been through.
Yes.
But also throwing out there or giving an example of an idea of a message.
Yeah, like I used to.
Pain has been funny.
So when my mom used to get drunk, she used to have her hair up in a bun on her head. And I used to make the funniest joke where it was like, you know, my mom is drunk when she has like this huge hair on her head. And it was a way to like make funny of the situation that my mom was drunk.
And that makes a good comedian.
Yeah, I want to be a comedian.
You are a comedian already.
Yes.
You are a comedian already.
I'm a good comedian.
So I just love that, and that's why, you know, when I asked that question, I was hoping you said that, but it didn't happen. But I mean, I love all the other stuff you gave, because those you think
are we still doing the podcast, or are we still just talking?
No, we're
we should go to the bloopers now, guys. Okay, here's where the comedian comes out.
Yeah, please.
How do you make a tissue dance?
Are you asking me the question?
Yeah, put a little boogie in it.
Just because English is my first language, maybe I didn't think that was.
What do you call two Latinos playing basketball? Juan on Juan. Like one-on-one.
One-on-one.
Like Juan on Juan. The Latinos.
Oh, I thought you said black
for some reason. It's too soon, huh?
No, I don't know.
No, like I'm not. I love Spanish.
Juan.
I love.
Now I get it. Juan and Juan.
Yeah. Okay. What do you call a Latino that doesn't have a car?
Broke it.
Joaquin.
Because he's Joaquin. Yeah, you're good.
I'm good.
I love it.
I mean, I made these up in like college, so.
But I'm just saying, like, you know, you use, and I seen it in you. I mean, you use a lot of everything that's a chaos. You have always make it fun.
I don't know. You know what, though? They actually talk,
mechanism.
but they talk about this with children. Okay, where I am too. I'm the youngest, right? So I always, and where you are as a child, this is something maybe we can talk about another time.
Yeah,
where you are in the child, and when you have, like, the childs play different roles, right? The oldest is the more, like, caretaker, right? The middle is, like, the person that doesn't get enough attention, and the youngest is the funny one. You, like, learn this as you get older, that you have certain roles in life, and depending on when you're born, where you are, you know, yeah, I'm the funny one.
I love that. And to end it here, I want to just kind of like say something that one of my really good friends, who is a comedian too, said to me not too long ago, and I thought it was very interesting. I'm sure you have heard this before. Ooh. But don't worry.
Who's your other friend?
My other friend?
Don't have friends, okay? I'm her only friend. I'm her only friend.
So before we end it, I'm gonna kind of just say this.
See, that's a controlling behavior.
And then,
I'm just kidding.
and then I'm going to ask you the question that I always ask at the end of my podcast.
Okay.
But my friend said, girls want to change men, and men always think that women won't change.
What?
So basically, like, girls, like, you know, women, we always, you know, being codependent, we always want to change men. We think that we can, we fall in love with potential. We believe in them. We want to make them better. Men, in the other hand, they think that they fall in love with this woman because they think that the woman is not going to change. But we, you know, we change, we grow, we don't, you know what I mean? Like
women always are changing, yeah.
And men think that they fall in love with that woman at that point, but at that point, like, that woman is going to grow and change. But they think that that woman won't change, so therefore it will work, and they can fall in love and stay together.
I agree.
He can still be the same without changing. But
1,000%, like, that makes so much sense. Actually, to be honest with you, I think
I thought it was connected to
the woman that I was when I met my son's father. I was his prime suspect, right? Prime. Whatever, I don't know how to express. But prime, I was his end game. That's how you say it, his end game. I was fun, I was a partier, we had such a good time, I was social, this, that, and the other. But I changed, and he didn't. I moved, and he didn't. I grew, and he didn't. And that's why I left. And then he tried to get back with me a whole year after we separated, and I could not do it. I could not go back, I couldn't.
And now you're here.
And now I'm here.
Is there anything, before I ask my last question, anything else that you want to say, express, to kind of like finalize this podcast?
No, I just, if you guys need help, hit us up, okay?
Well, yes, of course. You know, make sure you share, you comment. I really, you know, I would love to hear what you guys have to say, how you guys connected to this. If you're going through something, you know, we can, you know, answer your questions in our own perspective. Remember, we're in the rabbit hole. This isn't about being right or wrong. It's just sharing a perspective of a person. And this person now being here is Devynne, that has been through a lot of all this kind of experience.
I'll be back, okay?
And she will be back. Thank you so much for listening. And to end this podcast, before, let me tell you, like, again, yeah, make sure you share. Leave me a nice review on how you think about this. Only if it's gonna be a good one. And the last question.
The now.
I've been practicing. What up, man? So, I'm sorry. I came out of my shell. So, the last question will be, this is what I ask everybody that comes into my podcast here, Devynne. Where does time go? Just say it.
Wait, what?
Where does time go?
I don't know.
There you go, and thank you very much.
Is that the answer?
Have a great, I mean, that is your answer.
No,
so where does time go, Devynne? In your perspective, your own thought.
I don't know. I'm ready for the aliens to come.
So your answer is just that's totally okay.
I don't know.
Have a great night or morning. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you very soon.
Very soon. Very soon.
Bye-bye. You are always manifesting. The question is, are you manifesting consciously or unconsciously? To manifest is to bring something forth into your physical